Hello, ladies and gentlemen, back here. Gentlemen, LA like. Welcome to a little special video. As all of you know, at least by the time of this video's release, that unfortunately a legend has passed, and Stan Lee, the co-creator of things such as Spider-Man, X-Men, Iron Man, all these other properties he's created, or at least he has, particular co-creation about, has passed away. I decided to do something like this in which it's a post-commentary thing because the commentary for this video was just a mess. It was just really a mess everywhere. So I decided to focus more on trying to provide my audio for this particular video a little bit more clear and more concise. A little bit better. So, what am I going to do with this video? About this video? Well, instead of just playing the game like I did for Satoru Iwata's, I'm talking about my history with what Stan Lee's created. Mainly because I just want to clear the air about that and just express my history about it. I will say, though, real quick, like, mostly on, the actual history that I'm going to get into, I want everyone to keep in mind that I understand that Stan Lee technically co-created a good amount of his stuff. He wasn't a drawer. He wasn't a artist. He was a writer. That was mostly what he did. He wrote stories and had characters in mind. He built the characters, but the people around him helped create the characters. Like Jack Kirby helped actually design the characters, actually made them come to life in panels. But that's not to say Stan Lee shouldn't at least be given some credit, or as much credit. Well, just as much credit as creating the characters as Jack Kirby did. So Jack Kirby definitely deserves a lot of credit, and I'm pretty sure he deserves a lot of respect. But I'm also just saying that if I ever say oh, he created this thing, I'm not saying to demean Jack Kirby's work on the characters. This is more of just me trying to be more quick and concise. So that's all I wanted to say, okay? Okay, let's start off with the simple stuff. Where do I stand in comic books? Kind of a bit in the middle, kind of on the low spectrum of comic books when it comes to the actual comic books, because I only read a couple of things, and even then I read them way later in life. A couple of different issues and comic books that the characters that Stan Lee at least directly created, / other characters that were association with Marvel, that Stan Lee at least had a lot of hand in doing. For example, the X-Men, for example, or Spider-Man. I finally did get to read a couple of versions of comic books of those characters, but some of them when they came out / not when they came out. I read one or two few X-Men comic books, and also a Hulk comic book that was kind of graphic a bit, but it was all these types of little things that I read when they were coming out / when I could. But nowadays I've at least read a couple of them. I'll get into more specifics about which comic books I actually read when I get to the characters, but let's start off with smaller ones that I really want to get into, such as Black Panther real quick. I only know of this character because of certain cartoons that came out at the time. What was it? Earth's Mightiest Heroes, the Avengers cartoon, a couple of other cartoons that featured him as a supporting character. I think in some of the older animations, maybe I'm wrong. Actually, I think I'm wrong. I don't know. And of course the movie, which I haven't seen, but I've not heard good things about it. I'm not saying it's not bad from what I've heard. It's just not that great. That's the thing you have to keep in mind. So there's that. Man, that's a little bit of a weird dig to say. It's oh god, that kind of hurts to say a bit, because it's oh, the character's not that bad, but it's oh god, it really really hurts to say that. Especially with how much I really enjoy Stan Lee's work, at least, or seeing stuff like that. Sorry, I'm getting hung up on certain tweets and responses that certain people are having, because everyone wants to be a contrarian, or certain people want to be contrarians, or spit on people's grave because that's funny, or they misheard what exactly Stan Lee is. They say he's a racist, even though he was born in a Jewish family in the Like literally, he was raised in the 60s or like less than that. Like he was born in 1922 and was raised throughout like the 60s and like the 70s and maybe even the 50s if you want to stretch it. Like, well, you know what I mean. And he was born into a Jewish family. He was what do you call it? He created characters such as Black Panther, like I said before, the X-Men, Fantastic Four. All these characters that sort of represent both a familiar like grouping together and slash like prejudice that they had to face. Like seriously. But anyway, ignoring that, just to get over that, just getting over that. How exactly did Stan? What else do I remember? Oh yeah, let's actually get on to some of the bigger stuff. Let's get on to the Hulk, because, oh boy, the Hulk was always a character that I knew of and always somewhat liked, but unfortunately, I only like learned about it through a couple of smaller medias that weren't that great, such as the Hulk movie. You know, the one by the director of the movie director of Stan Lee. I think that's his name, right? I believe so. For those of you who don't know who Stan Lee is, the other Stan Lee, he was a director. I think he was an Asian director. I forget. What was it? for Pete's sakes, I can't remember. He was the guy who made the Hulk movie. You know, this, what was it? I forget when it happened, but it was a film that happened, so. It was, I think it was a 2008 movie. No, it was 2003. And it's somewhat liked, at least in certain places, but oh boy, has it received a little bit of backlash since then, because I will admit I did see the review about it from you know, oh no, wait, no. What am I talking about? Okay, just ignore my Stan Lee thing. I was thinking like, oh, I thought his name sounded similar to Stan. No, the director was Ang Lee. Ang Lee. God dang it. So stupid. Anyway, so this particular director directed a couple of movies, and one of the bigger ones that some people would at least know him for is, you know, The Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and a couple of other ones like Life of Pi and Brokeback Mountain, apparently. Which, like, I think he won an Academy, or at least I think he won an award for Life of Pi, or somebody won an award for Life of Pi. But still, he at least directed those movies, so I'm glad he's doing well after making the Hulk movie that came out in 2003. Other than that, there were some other things that I knew the Hulk from, such as like little video games, appearances in other Marvel stuff. But that's about it. It'll loop back around into the bigger one that I'm going to be talking about that I know the Hulk more from. I know him more for the Avengers, not the movie. Well, you know, sort of. Like anything Avengers related, I know more of the Hulk about. So there's that. Okay, who else was there? Oh yeah, there was the Fantastic Four, who sorry. It's just that I remember the Fantastic Four mainly because of their two movies. You know, the original Fantastic Four movie that came out like in the 2000s, and then the Silver Surfer movie, Rise of the Silver Surfer movie, and oh god. These movies were just okay, at least from what I remember, but they're not great. Like, they have issues. They really have a lot of issues. And, oh god, I liked them growing up, but looking back on them, I'm like, oh yeah, these movies weren't that great. So yeah, there's that to keep in mind. Oh man, it's so hard to look at some of these movies and think, oh, I used to like these. So what else was there, at least, for some of these movies that came into being? Well, there was also like a couple other TV shows that I do remember seeing the Fantastic Four in / semi-appearings, you know, because they actually cut into other like shows and actually either teamed up or crossed over with them, just like the next one that I'm going to be talking about. So, you know, keep that in mind. So I didn't know about them a little bit more for that. And I did read one comic with the Fantastic Four, but I don't remember it much. Slash, it's been a while. So, yeah, there's that with the Fantastic Four history. Who else was there? Oh yeah, the X-Men. One of the bigger two that I know more of. Everyone sort of knows the X-Men because of a couple of different things, and more so because of what they represent. But I'm pretty sure a lot of other people also know of the X-Men because of their animated series that they had, especially with that theme song. So, yeah, the X-Men. The X-Men in that particular instance, I knew of them a lot and I enjoyed them. And then they also crossed over with a couple other characters that I know of, especially one from another animated series I'll be talking about, but we'll get to him when we get to him. So I knew of the X-Men in a lot of different ways, especially the X-Men movies, actually, and also Logan, of course. I saw Logan like months ago, I believe, and oh my god, I still love it, and I still feel like sad about it, and it's like, it's making me even more sad since Stan Lee died. It's like, oh god. It's not like at that moment. It's like right now. It's making me even more sad looking back on Logan and thinking like, oh no. But anyway, let's just continue on. So with the X-Men, I did know about a good amount of some of the characters, at least the ones that appeared in the show, slash in certain parts comics, slash in some games actually. I did play a couple of like Marvel games, such as a few Hulk games, one Wolverine game, I believe, and maybe an X-Men game or two. It's been a while, but mainly anything that involved like crossovers between the two, like between all the properties and franchises, like the Marvel series or Marvel vs. Capcom or some things before that, like the Marvel Superhero Fighting Tournament, was it, or something similar to that. So I grew to know the X-Men through these things, and I will say I do like Wolverine, but I will say some of the other X-Men are kind of more interesting, or at least in my opinion, I like them more. But that still doesn't take away from, like, Hugh Jackman's performance in Logan. That's still a good one. That's a good send-off for him, honestly. So, what else was there? I can't think of another property that Stan Lee was mainly known for creating. Something that a lot of people would say would be super influential for them. I just can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, of course, Spider-Man. You know what? A lot of people have their particular history with Spider-Man. I have mine. So, where do I begin? Because Spider-Man, along with Batman, were one of the most prolific superheroes I've ever watched and just outright enjoyed ever since I was a kid. They were one of the few characters in a particular medium that made me care about them or wanted to see how they connect to these other forms of medias, or actually wanted to care about how exactly their stories ended. Like, oh hey, I want to look at like this character and say, oh, he's going to end up with her and hopefully he's going to live happily ever after, or oh, the ending of this is going to be so happy for him. Unfortunately for both Spider-Man and sometimes for Spider-Man and for Batman, they never really get that particular happy ending sometimes, and it kind of hurts looking at that. But let's focus on Spider-Man real quick. Where did I begin with Spider-Man? Well, again, I started off with a couple of animated series for him. The first one I do remember watching, at least on reruns, I think maybe when it rerun, I believe. I don't know whether or not it came out like earlier, but it came out and it was rerunning on Disney Channel. It was the Spider-Man animated series, I believe. I don't know which one I don't know which one it is, or like if it had a pronoun or other adjective to it. But I know for a fact this one came out during like Disney's what do you call it? Oh, not weekend afternoons. It was just a cartoon series that came out like during the 90s. Actually, it was in 1994, I believe, the one I'm talking about. This one basically rerun through both the 90s and into the late 2000s, so I was able to watch it. And I will say it's like I really did enjoy this one, but I will admit, looking back on it, it is a bit slow / a bit talkative, like the Nostalgia Critic says, so I can't blame him for saying that it had issues. But I don't know. I'm nostalgic blind, and I can't say I dislike the show because this made me like Spider-Man a lot, and it made me show like what exactly it was Spider-Man was, like what it meant to me. And then there were some other Spider-Man series that came out later on that I really enjoyed and kept watching. And if you noticed, I saved Spider-Man for last because, well, yeah, he's Spider-Man. He's the one superhero I liked the most, I enjoyed the most, I followed the most. And I'll get to that in a second, but first, real quick, let me explain. Like, what else I did. Okay, other than that, there were some other video games I actually played for Spider-Man that I know more, like, actually concrete that I actually played for him. Such as Spider-Man on the PS1 game, Spider-Man 1? Spider-Man, the movie game 1. Like, you know, based on the first movie, I played that one. So I played that one and I had that game. And then there were a couple of other like smaller Spider-Man games here and there that were on either Game Boy Advance or maybe SNES or like I think it was on a like those plug-and-play games that you know you plug into the TV that are dirt cheap that I played. I love Spider-Man. I loved it a lot. I watched all three of the Spider-Man movies with Tobey Maguire, directed by Sam Raimi, and I'll say this much: I loved all three of them, and yes, even the third one. Like I said, I love the third one enough to where like I can ignore its problems and say, oh, I still enjoy the movie and I think it's good. And I will fight people on that. I will fight people on that. I'll just plug my ears and say, it's a good movie. I don't care. So, yeah, keep that in mind about it. So, Spider-Man has always been a character I enjoy a lot. But why is that? Well, not unlike the X-Men, I found a lot of stuff in common with Spider-Man. I saw him as a teenage kid slash adult at times. It depends on how you look at the voice actor slash their particular positions. But most of the time I looked at him as just a young kid who, or an older kid who kept on having trouble and issues, who kept on fighting it the way through his problems and thinking on his feet slash through his issues that came about. He always kept on going, he kept on like changing it up anytime the situation got rough, and he always got better and better at what he did. That's what Spider-Man means to me. That's what Spider-Man meant to me. At least that's what I believed. And you know what? It still is something I believe because I can't help but like say to myself, what exactly would I do if I was Spider-Man? Well, I really would do something similar to that, and a lot of the time when I look at Spider-Man, I think to myself, there's a lot in common I have with Spider-Man because of a lot of what he does slash what I would do feels about both similar and different at the same time. It's like, I feel so much as if anytime I would become or I would feel this particular issue that I would myself would, you know, do something similar slash would try my best to be just as better or if not greater than what exactly the situation at hand would make me. Like if I have to be better than what I would be, then yeah, I would have to try my hardest to rise above my particular issues and at least do better for everyone and myself. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. So Spider-Man was always the type of superhero character that I always looked up to. I always thought, oh hey, he could do no wrong, or he was the best ever. He was the best of the best, and he represented what really I should strive to be. A dude who somewhat seems normal, but tries his hand at being like more than himself. Trying to be amazing, trying to be spectacular, trying to be ultimate, I guess. So yeah. Spider-Man actually means more to me, a lot more than some other people would think. And that's something at least I want to keep in mind. So, here's to you, Stanley, to all your creations and all the things you've done. All the people you've touched and, you know, at least given out a lot of particular advice slash told all your stories about. Hopefully a lot of people see it the way it was supposed to be. All your stories, all your things, hopefully everyone looks at them for years to come for what they're supposed to be. You know, to always be incredible, to always be fantastic, to always be extraordinary, to be amazing, to be spectacular, to be ultimate, to always be something marvelous, I guess. I could say. So hopefully you all feel the same way, I guess. Rest in peace, Stanley. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, Stanley. And I'll see all of you true believers later. Excelsior. Bye-bye, my bots.